Stand and follow along. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Roll call, please.
Trustee Aguilar.
Here.
Trustee Garrett.
Here.
Dr. Trustee Davis is.
Okay, we'll dispense with 2.4. We don't have any remote in. And 2.5, I don't see any need to change business to you. Okay. Acceptance of the minutes of the June 2nd, 2025. You want to take a brief moment? Tony, want to look that over?
I was here, right?
That's
the movement.
Okay, so we have a motion by trustee Aguilar. I will second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Public comment. We had any requests prior to the meeting for public comment? And I don't see anyone here from the public, so 2.7. With 3.1 monthly financial status update. I guess Jeremy or Trevor are gonna lead us on, and we can do it together. Okay.
If we can bring up the pages. On my note. So we're looking through just July, so it's just 1 month in. There's not really a whole lot of activity to be seen. We do have our revenue at for current year it's 5.68. Last year was 6.47 for the time frame. Minimal changes. Really to report as far as questionable revenue, other than the fact that it looks like our non-resident situation is again going to be higher than it has been. So that's something we can evaluate as we move forward if we want to potentially change that moving forward. If we remember the campuses get to the difference between the budget and the actuals at the end of the year, so it's not hurting anything to keep it lower. And if we raised it at the beginning of the budget time frame, it might cause other issues.
Right.
Try to lower it back down.
So what more, right?
Yes,
What's driving that?
not really sure. The campuses are seeing more activity. We thought originally it was just due to the COVID, the free for COVID.
Right.
And
We talked about
non-residents,
that. Okay.
non-residents coming in because they could, and that hasn't seemed to be going away, so.
Don't know, don't have an
It's
idea.
down from its high for sure
Right.
during that
Yes.
free period. But where some colleges drastically rely on that, I'm talking Santa Monica, I'm talking some Bay Area colleges. Ours is not that high of a percentage and we haven't seen a significant decrease. So those, to me, what it tells me is we are out of state. We're not the international students, right? We have very few international students.
Because we have higher, we're just going off from last year, the numbers, right?
No, the budget has been set at 690,000 for several years now. And again, as Jeremy indicated, we usually exceed it slightly, and then we turn around the following year and provide those revenues to the two colleges.
We're still ahead of.
Yeah, we're already ahead of budget, so.
Yeah.
That's before.
It'll be nice to know what's driving that, you know.
If I could, trustee Garrett, I think that the staff is really working hard from both colleges in terms of serving our student and, like momentum of grants, keeping in student enrolling, and we have wait lists. We open, they're just, so the district and the colleges are getting the visibility of all the work that we've done, I think.
But like what programs or what's driving the non-resident tuition up of?
The same thing, like for student from Arizona would come in, or the classes that we could take. I know when I was at Columbia College, when they come to us, and Columbia College does a little more hand-holding, like, hey, you come out of state, we'll call you, we'll service you. So that I can speak from Columbia College. I saw Sarah, what you think from the MJC?
I think because we're now one of the teaching schools for the CDC OEI exchange, that students from all over can now come to this exchange and try to find the course that they're looking to take, that they might be in a different community college somewhere and it's filled in their space, so they can come to this exchange where we are now one of the colleges that are listed, and they can take that course through this exchange, which is through the state chancellor's office. And so I think it's pulling in a different
Out of state?
added state space that we probably didn't intend for it to. But I think also because we were able to have the free tuition during the COVID, I think that probably more people are kind of staying in that space now. They didn't go
A
away.
little bit better now?
Yeah, yeah.
Date and look at it.
Yeah, I think it's great. But I don't want to see a correlation between a higher number and
I know exactly.
and then all of a sudden we got a higher number in student debt. That I don't want to see. It's like, oh, we're getting it out there, we're bringing it in, and then it's like, oh, but look, our student debt went up as a correlation between the higher number here,
Well,
so.
and you guys do approve the non-resident tuition each year, so as that goes up, we could have the same population.
Sure,
But.
sure. Yeah.
And
Yep, get it.
that amount.
Yep, okay. Sorry about that, Jeremy.
No, that's good discussion. So if we can go down to the expenditure side, we're seeing a slightly lower in expenditures. And if you remember last year, we had the $6 million posting to transfer to the fund 41, which happens early on. So that's why we didn't have that transfer done this timeframe. So the expenditures are slightly lower, but still, it's a month in, so it's hard to really analyze much, but it's within the reason. We're not seeing any spikes or anything up or down that make us question. So MJC and Columbia are both right around the same as last year. And again, it's the central services that's the difference, and that's because of the $6 million transfer is done through the central services site. So our total expenditures, and then we have the breakdown of the district between central services, MJC, and Columbia.
Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. We'll move on now to, I like it, but most of you may not. It's the OPEB actuarial report, so.
Yeah.
Ever gonna lead us?
I'll lead off on that and, we're required to do, an official actuarial report every 2 years. And then what we do in the second, is the actuarial company does provide us an update. I think it's a 1 or 2 page update. It's just kind of making sure we have the relevant information for our financial statements. And there is some good news in this report as it relates to the total net obligation. And if we get to, you make that a little bit bigger and then go to page 1. That first chart, a little bit put it down. You can see that our total of OPEB liability has actually decreased from 36.1 down to 32.5 million. And at the same time, our assets that are associated, so literally Trustee Aguilar, the first couple of numbers in the charts, yeah. So the TOL, the total obligation, went down from 36.1 down to 32.5, but yet our net position, our assets that we have went from 35.3 up to 37.9. And so 2 years ago, we were excited because we're nearly 99% funded, whatever it was. And now we are in a position where we are technically overfunded. So we have a negative net OPEB liability. There's a few things we'll show throughout this document. We see in this one chart, the estimated pay-as-you-go amount has gone up from 2.931 million up to 2.972. So not really much of an increase, but as we move forward to the next page, Yeah, that second part there. Do see our total projected benefit payments continuing to increase for the next 6 or so years, before we do see a trend where the projected benefit payments actually does start to decline. Why does it decline? Based on the way we have different tiers of our retirees and the benefits that they receive over time. And that's why it was intentional on the district and the board at the time that we cap the retiree healthcare benefits as a way to lessen that liability. So over time, in the next several years, we'll see that payment out towards projected benefits go down.
You'll have another 4 years or so.
Yeah. Good to share. I think if you go to the bottom of page 4, one of the reasons why we are seeing a decrease is the overall count on retirees. So, for retirees currently receiving benefits, it's gone down from 190 to 175. And we haven't done the research to determine, is this a little blip? We do know that our average age slightly above there. You can see that our average age is 44.5 versus the prior year 45.4. But we do know that there are a lot of employees who are on the older side and could retire at any time.
So this could spike up next year, it could go up.
I wouldn't say that I project it to. I think, and I'm going sideways here, but we haven't done any early retirement incentives. We haven't done some of these other things. If we were to do an early retirement incentive and employees found it valuable enough to them, then yes, you could spike that number. So yes, we currently have a decrease in the number of retirees, which helps drive that overall liability down. We have plenty of employees who are approaching retirement age, and eventually we could see that number tick up a little bit. Absolutely. If you scroll backwards just a little bit on that same page, go up to the top. That first box, just where there's break, those are our tier 1, and then with the asterisk. Actually, it's those with the asterisk. Those hired prior to 7104 receive district paid benefits to age 70. And then those hired, whatever it was, 7104 through 7113 are what we consider tier 2. And they get it up to age 65. And then at the active cap of regular employees. So let's call it 2200. So the retirees their benefits are at that same level. And as we scroll down, tier 3 is those employees hired after 6/30/13. Again, it is to age 65. It does have a specific district cap of 1361, which has been intentional. It's remained in place at that amount. But we now have this rule of 70 applied, where you have to have, well, maybe ours isn't technically a rule of 70. You have to be age 55 and you have to have 20 years of service within the district. Whereas earlier it was the rule of 70, right, Jeremy? Okay, so the old rule was the rule of 70. The new one was you must be age 55 and you must have 20 years of service. And so quite honestly, someone like me who was hired in 2016, based on my age and based on my years of service, I'm actually likely to not qualify for retiree benefits, even going all the way up to age 62. I think it would take me that long in the district before I would qualify for this new tier of retiree healthcare benefits. So that is kind of what's helping drive down those out years and keeping the total OPEB liability at a controllable amount, if you will.
So wait a minute. you can retire at 65, even though you don't have 20 years. I mean,
I
you're
could
just talking
retire
what you,
today at age 50. I'm a little older than 50, but based on CalPERS, I can retire.
right.
But if I retire today, 9 years of service in this district, I'm not going to receive any retiree health benefits.
Oh, the health benefits.
The health benefits.
Okay.
We're only specific.
We're only talking about health benefits.
The state.
It sounds like you were not able to retire, so health benefits for you retire,
Right,
okay.
this is all we're
All right.
talking about is the health
Perfect.
benefits. And so, there has been chatter about this tier 3, but it was intentional of the district to do this. And we're starting to finally see, one, the fact that we've been able to get ourselves fully funded, and two, that we're actually starting to see that total liability start to bring itself down. I think the rest of the document has a significant amount of detail, normally detail that we don't get into. But if there are any specific questions, to try to address them or to take those questions back to the actuarial firm. They don't come to present it because we would have to pay them to present it to you all. And if that is something that we wanted in the future, we'd be happy to do that. But it is.
Darren would want to.
No, I just want some more clarification on some of this stuff. My first question is the bottom of page 1 where they have key assumptions. The bottom one is projected base growth.
Page one.
Yeah, my concern is that, that's fine if you're looking at an actuarial valuation of a standard pension fund. And obviously, projected payroll growth is essential. But this is a pay-as-you-go plan. So if you could ask them to provide some clarification on that issue. You and I have had some discussions prior and we really didn't see any clarification in this document. So I would like to see that. And I don't mean to sound morbid or anything, but I would like some clarification on, they say they use the CalSTRS and CalPERS mortality tables, but I would like to see what our actual experience is, and if that actual experience lines up with those mortality tables. I don't have a problem with those tables, but I want to make sure we're somewhere close with what those tables represent. So that's number 2. So if you look at page 2, when we talk about implicit rate subsidy, so Trevor, why don't you explain in layman's terms what they mean by implicit rate subsidy?
Where we, the page?
You're at the top half of page 2.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
it.
Just the overall definition of what they're talking about when they're talking about your rate subsidy.
Well, I don't know if I can give you the best definition of it, but I'll change the subject slightly. We see in that table portion due to employer share of retiree premium. And a large part of that calculation, you see, does relate to the employer portion. I'm not going to try to send you sideways. I don't have the definition for you there.
Well, my take on looking at it is under GASB, you have to put this in here and it's also in your footnotes and your financials. When you have something like this, implicit rate subsidy is when you have retirees blended in with your actives and what additional costs is associated with that. That's a traditional definition of an implicit rate subsidy under GASB. I just want to make sure that that's what they're talking about. So if they could provide some, it may be in here, but I didn't see it. So if what I'm looking at is what I think, I'm fine with it. But if they could, and I'd like to know what is our implicit, what is the cost of having the retirees blended into the rate? Sure, it's more than what people think. And then if you look at, let's see here, I know you're probably all wondering when I'm gonna stop talking, but. So when it gets down to the bottom of page 2, and we're looking at, total obligation benefit payments, is that 4,161,000 and change? Is that what our current outlay is per year?
Yeah, so the bottom chart on the bottom of page 2, the benefit payments should be what we actually paid for retiree healthcare benefit.
Okay,
So although we are seeing a lower amount in other places, those were the true benefit payments. Now, there are amounts on the next column over in the F and P, which is the middle column. We can
Right.
see the employer contributions of 3,000,005.
right,
So that, in a sense, is the amount we collected from payroll. We budget each full-time employee as part of their total annual budget that we're going to pay this amount of money over to our trust to provide for that future benefit.
but that's what the district pays.
That's correct. So we paid 3,000,000 over to the trust, but yet the actual payments out to Blue Shield or to the JPA was $4.1 million. So again, if we didn't have this account set up and all these dollars set aside, our annual budget would need to include $4.1 million in an ongoing budget. And you see, we're only budgeting 3 million for it. Why is that? Well, we have the earnings because we have these dollars set aside to help balance that out. And in that first column, the TOL column, we see that our experience gains was 2.5 million. Obviously, we all know that the stock market has been going in the right direction over the last 18 to 24 months. And specifically, those returns have helped us to make sure that our employer contributions haven't had to increase. But yes, that 4.1 million, I think this is the first time we are over $4 million.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that is something to keep an eye on.
No, I just bring it up because people need to understand that this fund was set up with district dollars, district money has been put into this fund over many, many years. And, so this is, taxpayer money that's gone in to fund this program. And I think it's important that we remember that. Other than that, I don't have any thing other to add, other than I agree with you that, there has been talk of increasing the cap. Call the tier 3. And that would be my other thing. I would like a breakdown where we're at with tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. If they could just provide that.
We provide the information to them, so we should have the demographic.
Yes, I'm sure you do. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
We'll work on those questions. We'll work with Dr. Tran and get them sent out to the committee members.
Anybody have anything else? Now we move on to 3.3, our full-time equivalent student update. Always our favorite topic, all right?
The last 2-3 years, it's been a good topic.
All right, so I wanted to start by going over the blue column first. Since we last met, I filed the final 320 report in July. We earned 16,647 FTS for last fiscal year. Had a really great year, lots of growth. We were up 852 FTS from the prior year. And that was 1% over our target. Our target last year was 16,478 FTS. So this year we're now in the purple column for 25-26. And we have updated our annual target. We are now at 16,813, and that is a 1% growth from the actual FTS earned. So it's 1% of that 16,647. So that's how we developed and came up with our current target of 16,813. And then I ran these projections on August 20th. So it's as of the data in the system at that time. So for our regular summer column in purple, that column includes our actual hours that were in the system as of that date, as well as some estimated positive attendance hours for some courses that we hadn't collected hours for yet. I ripped the numbers again today, and we were still at the same total.
Hold on, let's wait till Antonio comes back. Continue on with the business.
Kind of fun.
It is.
Okay, so for the regular summer column, the numbers in purple, I reran those numbers again today since I did have some projected positive attendance hours, and those hours have been collected, and we're at the same number. So that's pretty solid number, probably what we will be reporting at the P1. And that is 2,036 FTES. And I wanted to point out that that is 129 FTES greater than what we reported in the prior regular summer column. However, because we split the early summer and regular summer hours, and we had less early summer hours in 24-25, if we look holistically at summer 2025 versus summer 2024, we only had a growth of 47 FTES. I just wanted to point that out. We did have growth, but it wasn't 129 for the entire term. And then looking at the fall column in green, when I ran this, we had 7,272 FTES. That was just a pure projection of everything that was in the system at the time. Some courses have been added since that date. I did see the numbers shift a little bit, and enrollment is very strong. So the next time we meet, we will see this number go up a bit. We hit first census today, so tomorrow I will be running numbers again for the colleges and sending those reports out so that the colleges can use those new projections in their planning. And then for the spring and early start, I just left it flat. At this time of year, we always just plug in the prior year. I would expect to see growth in those terms with the new funding formula that we have. It kind of artificially going to have a little bit of a growth there if we run flat. And so that's what we're seeing at this point.
Does your numbers include that artificial growth from the chancellor's office?
Yeah, so
Okay.
that was just based off of what was in the system and what we're running. But we have had some changes with some of the sections. So we were doing projections at 100% instead of more than that. So maybe we could have put that in.
So there's a manual that the chancellor's office, and I'll let Mary explain it a little bit better than me. But basically they dictate how many minutes generates, how many times students generates how much FTS. There's been a change to the calculation, which actually is going to favor our district. We think it's about a 1% overall benefit to us. And so
Yes, yeah, we now have a standardized funding formula, so the calculation will change for the majority of our courses. So since we have the condensed calendar and we earn a little bit less before the new standardized formula, we earned a little bit less for our irregularly scheduled courses or our online courses. Our distance ed, we earn just a slightly less than our regular standard weekly or daily course. But now with the new standardized, they all earn the same. And since we have more of those online courses, distance ed courses, we're now going to get a larger bump for those. And so overall, we are anticipating a growth of about 1% just
It's gonna end up a lot more than 1%.
if we have growth with enrollment and additional sections,
Yeah.
yes.
In the past, you have a hard date that you count. Like we always say, when you hit the register, once that hit the register, anything come after, the state won't count for us. Now, because of the changes, they allow us to count for whatever is after, and we can also project what is ahead. So that's why it helps us with the funding formula and, you know, the weekly power content. But that's great.
So maybe I remember one time you said, or somebody said, that we can only grow so much because after some amount, we kind of lose money or something like that.
Yeah.
What's that number?
We're still, well, I don't want to confuse you, but these numbers that we have here are how we count our full-time equivalent students. And we're comfortable talking amongst ourselves and the colleges with those numbers. When we send it off to the chancellor's office, because we're on a compressed calendar, we actually get a bonus. So if you go up to our statewide numbers, they don't actually agree with this. They're actually higher. So we count them the way we count them. We turn it over to the state. Because of a compressed calendar, we actually get bonus on top of that. So where we stood at the end of 24-25, the state, all these numbers in the 25-26 budget said, hey, we're going to give you $100 million to deal with growth in 24-25. So when I was talking to you at a certain point, we had 250 unfunded FTEs. As we closed the year, we were down to about 50 unfunded FTEs. So let's pretend that the number that were funded is.
So next year, the same way or not?
Well, but when I did the math calculation between 15,795 and 16,647, it was 5.5%, somewhere around that. So we grew 5.5%. And we got funded for nearly all of it, just a small fraction, really small. Now, as we go into this new year, we only have 0.5% of growth available to us. So we're budgeting for 1 just to give the colleges a target, give them a little bit of money to assist with doing the schedule. We're going to end up higher.
Okay.
And then what we're counting on is for a lot of the colleges across the state to not grow. So when they don't use their 0.5%, those get added back to the statewide pool. And then we collect a little bit more from that statewide pool. You always want to be slightly over, but not so far over that you are you're hurting your own budget. And we're not hurting our own budget. Again, some of this growth is going to be artificial, which means we didn't offer any more classes, but yeah, we're going to achieve 1% growth. And a lot of the growth, and I haven't really looked at the class counts in the last week or two. I don't think we've added too many sections, but we're seeing more students go into the same number of sections that we already have. And so that's an efficiency that we're getting just based on these students trying to find any seat that they can attach themselves to right now. So yes, we'll end up higher. No, it won't all be funded. I don't anticipate. We will work on our conversations with the chancellor, with the governor, with whoever will listen that, especially in the Central Valley, we're growing, and any funding that you can move to support this will be greatly appreciated.
I think if I hear correctly, that Merced College is going to a compressed calendar. Yeah, I heard that.
There's an immediate bump in doing that. That's probably what they're doing. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out, we got all these students coming in, what our outcomes are as far as, certificate and degree completion.
So
Because
that-
with the student-centered funding formula, I
Yeah,
mean, it's great,
yeah, but we.
but
we
if
get
we're
them
not
done.
having the outcomes at the end.
Yeah.
You know,
That will be a focus, is completion and retention for sure.
When I look at it from a budget perspective, since the SCFF has come into play, when you look at the supplemental and success, which are these metrics, they've constantly gone up. But we've also had more students. So as a percentage, is it different? I'll leave that to the researchers to do that. But we are starting to get concerned that the FAFSA is getting more and more difficult for students to apply for. And will some of our local students say it's not worth the effort? And again, we get those bonus points and those bonus dollars associated with students getting California, yeah, I was gonna call it FOG as well, the California Promise Grant. As
someone
well
got
as,
swamp money, that's right?
and as well as the FAFSA and the Pell Grant. And so hopefully our numbers continue to go in the right direction. Again, we've been fortunate during the entire time of the student centered funding formula. And hopefully we just continue to keep moving in the right direction.
Okay. Good news as always, Mary, thank you. See where we're at on the agenda. Bear with me here. Yeah, I think we're moving.
5 minutes.
Yeah, you did 2.5 minutes actually, but 4.1, general fund, was final budget. You're cutting into your time.
This presentation will be the same as goes to the full board on Wednesday. But I'm happy to spend more time going over certain questions that you all might have. Let's go on the slide. And a lot of these slides will just be able to move through, right? Next slide. I'm done. It's to 24-25. This is showing our final budget compared to our unaudited out. And we can see right off the bat that we budgeted for 157 million and it actually came in at 171 million. And the primary line to look at there is the apportionment line. Well, how did you budget for 144 million and it come in at 153? Why are you $9 million off 8 something?
Why?
So as I explained in the 25-26 budget, the governor gave $100 million of growth back towards the 24-25 year. So we essentially learned after the year was over that, by the way, here's all this extra money. And we were hoping that it was coming, and obviously we're thankful that it came. So that amounted to $3+ million of that. Then we also budget for a deficit factor. And that amount for 24-25 was 2.5%, I think $3.7 million. So that is us saying, just in case the state has a recession, can't afford its bills, we need to make sure that we're being conservative on our revenue estimation. And if something bad happens, that we aren't having to significantly dip into our reserves during that fiscal year. Well, the statewide deficit factor actually came in at 0%. So that added another 3.7 million. Take the 3+ million, 3.7 million, you add in some changes to the supplemental and success, and there's 8-something million.
I don't think you're gonna see that next year, the 0%.
We won't see, well, I'll show you on the next year. There is a little bit that I think will actually come to us.
No, I mean, the 0%,
Deficit factor.
that's in fact.
They built the budget saying that they were gonna fully fund it. We'll see though. Other state revenues, some miscellaneous stuff, local revenue has, well, state revenue could include a little bit of lottery that maybe exceeded budget. But it's really in the local revenue for interest income that was $2+ million over our budget. We've adjusted the budget in 25-26, but not all the way up to the top. We're always afraid if you have a revenue that could go down, it's harder to claw the money back once you've actually budgeted it out. So let's go to the next slide and see the expenditures. So let's call it 14 million up on revenue. And then you're 11 million down on expenditures. Well, how did that happen? Each site is responsible for evaluating their staffing. We have been consistent on the idea of trying to retain efficiencies, to hang on to vacancies where we possibly can. So that accounts for a lot of the rows 6 through 13. Overall, be a lot of the savings associated with the site-specific expenditures. Each site is allowed to retain a reserve to then spend those on one-time type projects in a future year. And specifically for MJC and Central Services, we had reserves. We have plans for future projects, but we didn't fully expend those items. But for budgeting purposes, Jeremy and I usually talk to the two colleges and say, how much do you think you're going to spend? How much do you think you're going to spend? So that was several million, let's call it 4 million unexpended. And so those add up. If we go to the next slide, we'll see where our fund balance ends up. So again, where we're expecting a decrease in fund balance in row 22 of 13 million, we actually added to our fund balance by 10 million. And so we did end the 24-25, and these are unaudited numbers with about probably 57 million in for Fund 11. So let's move on to the next page where we, and this kind of describes where we were. Again, it was improving FTES, increasing counts for the student success and supplemental, more growth funds allocated at the end of the year, no deficit factor, the efficiencies and site-specific reserves. I should have just gone to this instead of next slide. The governor has a budget, which is down there at the bottom, and we are in the implementation phase. There are some trailer bill language that do happen. We haven't seen anything that's come out that's been significant yet. On to the next slide, we'll talk about the 25-26 final budget. So here's a breakdown of the various revenues that we utilize to generate our budget. You see total revenue is 167.6. The second number on the sheet is our deficit factor. So if the state continues to receive the revenues as it is, and there is not a deficit factor at the end of the year, then we would have 3.1 million more in revenue at the end of the year. I'm with you. They promised that there would be zero deficit factor, but in their first document, they already have a deficit factor. Now it's very small at this point, and we hope that continues. So again, I did point out that we've increased the interest income line. We've adjusted a few of the other items based on our actual FTES, how it might generate the mandated block grant or enrollment fees and a few other things. Next slide, we start to talk about our expenses. And what we do here, it's not by site. Within the budget document, you can see it broken down by site, but we want to show you how we took last year's base budget and add in these various expenses to get where we're at. And the single largest expense is associated with increase in salary for our employees. And that is in row number 3 for step column longevity. It's in row number 5 for classification review for LTAC and CSCA. Row number 6, salary increase for YFA based on our contractual calculation, 5.1 million. Row number 8 is additional YFA adjustments, which is a small dollar amount. So very significant increase in compensation, in my opinion, demonstrating that the board does care about the salary and benefits that our employees are receiving. And that's been a consistent effort on the board's part. Down at the bottom, we have some new items, and we continue to maintain free parking for students. And we'll eventually need to build up an ongoing budget of around $1.5 million to cover that. We have been utilizing a COVID block grant that came from the state to help offset those dollars. There's two other items described in row 9 and in row 12. In row 9, the growth allocation, because we achieved additional FTES, the state is allowing additional revenue. So we have budgeted out a growth allocation that will primarily benefit MJC, as well as an increase to census services. We still see where there is an imbalance associated with the two colleges, where MJC generates the majority of the revenues, and Columbia has an amount that. Let's just say that MJC isn't receiving its fair share.
What percentage?
Well,
We say majority, what are we talking?
the revenues are 86, 87 to 14, 13, yeah.
Really?
So it's somewhere around there. And what
How much, okay, so that's 13%. What percentage did they get of the budget?
I might have to throw a dot for you. Bear with me, I'll find this document here.
10 minutes.
There you go.
Wow.
Gonna share?
I'm gonna have to join the meeting.
I mean, if you don't have it,
Well, I have it now in front of me.
Okay.
So, let's talk about FTES. And this is going back 5 years. And where we really saw the imbalance was MJC was generating 89.4% of the FTES. So that means Columbia was 10.6. And out of the allocation, just looking at the two colleges, MJC was getting 82.1%, while Columbia was getting 17.9. So MJC was generating 89.4
I thought it was worse.
and only getting 82.1. So they were 7.3% short. We've made some intentional adjustments over the years to specifically drive dollars towards the MJC budget. So now, where it was, the allocation was 82.1. Now MJC is at 84.1. So that's good. And the FTS is actually going more towards the benefit of Columbia. So that, as of last year, was 88.2 to 11.8. So we're getting better, but we're still not there yet. So it is difficult to share with Columbia that you're doing great work. Thank you for the additional FTS, but there are not additional resources in the budget for you. Now, as there are health increases and salary benefits, we do provide them resources for that. But where it came to that growth, or down in row 12, the specific allocation to the site, they're not sharing in that at this.
So the 2% more that we have for MJC, that was phased out for them.
It's taken a long time, and it's only made a 2% difference. So we have more work to do, and in DFAC we'll continue to look at that and discuss that. So on the next page, we'll kind of see, well, this is one time. So I'm proposing that we continue to spend a significant number of one-time items. And I'll walk through these. So in line 14, it's continuing our facilities and IT total cost of ownership. These used to be ongoing, but based on the budget getting a little bit narrower, I moved these over to one time. The site-specific reserves, primarily this is essential services and MJC having their reserves and budgeting to spend them. There is still a little bit of carryover on the IT TCO. Lucas and his team have done a really good job of bringing that number down. But there is a small carryover still for them. Allocation to Fund 41, I am proposing that we utilize $8 million of fund balance to continue our goal of dealing with those facility projects that are necessary that are emergent in nature. That's primarily for roofs, chillers, HVACs, boilers, systems that we know are in need of repair, not in the long run, but in the more immediate term. So for the last several years, we've been very proactive in allocating dollars over to Fund 41. And I'm asking that we look at that amount this year.
Yolanda, is that gonna be enough?
Never.
It won't be, I mean, for our immediate needs, this would go a long way. So this will take care of some roofs, some critical roof repairs that we've got, and some replacement of their chillers and boilers in Yosemite and Sierra Falls that have not been replaced since they were built. So I think this take care of some important items. One chiller is over $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the funds coming for the renovation of the stadium? What fund are they coming from?
That's a combination
Yeah.
of funding. I think the board had allocated some. the
Right.
board Has allocated
So
some.
that's not here.
That was, it was allocated last year and
It could have been 2 years ago.
And so
Thank you, Sarah.
that's a good point. When we make this allocation, it's not likely to be spent within the next
Got it, got
10
it. No, I
months.
understand. I just wanted to see if it was part of here or it's already came out of it. Or
It's already, those dollars have been set aside and are earmarked towards that project.
Is it still with the state architects or?
Registered with the DSA and it's moving forward. That has been probably.
I was gonna ask you about it.
Yeah, I mean, we have, we're working through some issues with the elevator manufacturer. It went out of business. There's only 2 in the whole nation. So we're trying to shift gears and get on there.
Are we
But the design, everything is moving forward.
Still scheduled to start right after the season? Is that what it was, right?
That's what we're tentatively scheduled, yes.
That's okay. That's a good conversation. Row 18 site allocation, to continue to help NJC meet their scheduling and programming needs, if you will, that we continue to leave $1 million in specifically for MJC. And then there are some other smaller amounts that relate to prior year in there. If we move on to the next page, I want to highlight one more time. And I haven't said it specifically here. If you look at row 2, total revenue, 167.6. Ongoing expenditures, 167.4. We have a balanced budget. And it's then that row 4 where we're being intentional of spending certain reserves, earmarking them for important projects so that we can keep our reserves at a very reasonable amount. So projecting the end year at 36.2 million. Let's see what the next slide is.
So important part is all this stuff is one time. It's not gonna be recurring because then we'll get in trouble.
There are no personnel in there. There are, the idea is that if times were tough and we didn't do these allocations,
Yeah, whenever.
we would get through. Absolutely. So a recap that we have an ending fund balance that is the board policy of 2 months of expenditures. I would want to use the word guarantee, but I'm highly expecting our reserves to end up higher than that 36.2. As we allocate the budgets to the sites, it's up to them to spend, and where they're efficient, where we as central services continue to try to remain efficient, we're going to have savings. We hope that our revenues continue to go up as it relates to FTS and the Student Center funding formula. And then the deficit factor that could end up adding a couple $1 million to our reserves at the end of the year. And that's what I like about that is the idea is we're conservative on the front end. And then great, if the deficit factor comes in at 0, we have this $3+ million. We can then turn it around in the subsequent year on a one-time related item while also adjusting our ongoing budget. So, in fact, we've been able to talk about these conservative features and currently those conversations are going well. And I'm hopeful to continue to have a strong reserve for our district, but also setting aside dollars for those projects that are vying for us. And I think that's the last page.
You know, it must seem conservative, but I think we're gonna be happy because it's gonna come when the economy slows down and we're not gonna be in a hurry to do anything drastic, you know, so this is good job on making sure that we have the money to spend on projects and whatever we need and also being careful that if something goes wrong and the economy goes down, we're not in trouble right away, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's great as a snapshot in the present, but, you know, my fear is that it's great that we're allocating, because I'm a big proponent, you know, of maintaining our facilities and taking care of our students in that respect. But what does concern me is we potentially get to the point where we don't have any real dollars to allocate towards facility maintenance and necessary repairs. And that's why we need to start having a conversation about a bond. And if we don't, we're potentially gonna get to a point where we're getting beat out by everybody else within the California community college system. Because we just haven't come up with a plan to do that. You know, because if we want to maintain what we have, you know, we can all argue about Measure E and how it was put together and how it was spent. But I think we've learned from that and we have the ability to craft something that takes care of our facility. We're not adding to our footprint, but take care of what we have and come up with a unique approach to benefit trends and career and technical education and things in that regard, which I think is going to be, you know, the future back to what community college did in the past. I think that's going to be a future theme. But if we don't have the bond dollars to do it, it's just a pipe dream at this point. It's not going to become a reality. Because what I'm interested is yeah, the football stadium should have been done. It should have been incorporated in Major E. We're fixing that problem now. But it could be with prices going up. Be interesting to see what you find out in that initial construction process. What are our potential cost overruns? And we don't know yet, but there could be some potential cost overruns. Because construction costs in this area have just, well, you know, have just skyrocketed.
Yeah, and the campuses have been on the receiving end of some of those estimates on a smaller scale, and construction is very expensive right now. And especially constructed to the DSA standards that we're required to by law.
Right.
And then, yeah, you have your old buildings like John Muir and Ansel Adams. Those house some CTE programs, and even if we update what we have now, it doesn't have the infrastructure you need to accommodate the programs you want to teach. So we're finding that challenge too.
Because as we've taken tours, you know, technology rapidly evolves, and particularly in the CTE arena and with our IT infrastructure, but just CTE as we're talking now, you know, you're going to get calls, hey, this is the news where we need to update, you know, we need to stay current.
I was just at a meeting at 2:00 regarding a space that they want to renovate for CTE. So yeah, we see the challenges, and it's not just because the buildings are old. They just don't have the infrastructure you need to support the programs you want to provide.
Especially the power consumption and how those buildings are.
Ventilation, plumbing,
Yeah.
power.
I don't know where we're at on the exact timeline of the facilities master plan, but I do think that might be.
Okay, so before we end, my fellow trustee here brought the bond, so I'm not opposed to the bond, but it has to be completely different than the way it was done last time. My own personal view it needs to be very specific and targeted.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if not, the other bond that I was not involved, it was a waste of taxpayers' money. Sorry. A lot of the issues and the things we did. If we're gonna have a bond and we're gonna ask the taxpayers of this county to pay more money in taxes, it has to be written completely different and targeted at specific areas that we need to do that. And I agree with you, but and then I'll be able to support it. And I think you have some of the other board members who is not going to be supportive. Some of them might not be even for it, even whatever it is, but I'm not opposed to the bond. I think we could use it in a very conservative way and target it to the specific issues that the district is facing. So
I mean, what tears me right now with interest rates being so high, I mean, there's just no feasible way to go out and do it right now. I mean, we've actually missed the boat on putting a bond on the ballot. So it's, but that doesn't stop us from doing the groundwork and the legwork right now, coming up with a internal and external community-based plan to address what our short-term and long-term. I mean, just a few years ago, our short-term and long-term needs of the district were approximately $150-ish million. Well, with inflation and everything else, I'll guarantee you that number is probably, yeah, it's double what it was. So we've got to come up with something. And I agree with you that, you know, to protect the taxpayers, and I've said this before, there will be no capital appreciation bonds in that package. It'll be, now, don't get me wrong, if you sell these on the open market, they love capital appreciation bond because the amount of money they get at the end is 400 to 500%. So it's easy to sell, but if you're looking at a moderate to high interest rate environment, I mean, it's a killer for the taxpayers. So if you come up with a comprehensive, detailed plan and you show them exactly your rates are not going to change for property value and they're going to be general obligation bonds only, I think that's a way to endear yourself and have transparency and trust with the taxpayers. So
each college has been doing their facility master plan in such a way that it includes the community. I think we're getting close where it can come forward to trustee review and I'll talk with Dr. Tran to say, do we want to bring it here or do we want to do a special session? But I appreciate all the conversations about facilities. Yolanda and I talk frequently, and I know she's talking with the colleges frequently about the needs. And I appreciate the acknowledgement of the significant needs that we're facing.
I mean, if all you look at is the one facility, and Trustee Aguilar brought it up, the football stadium. Okay, if we didn't allocate and have some monies left over and the board made a commitment, that wouldn't be happening. But the point is, if you just carry that out district-wide, you get a sense of what we're talking about. And that's just facilities. That's not talking about meeting the future of career and technical education and things like that. So my idea would be is to I don't think you do a special session now. I think you need to start laying the groundwork of what does MJC see for now and in the future? Where does Columbia see themselves?
We're already there.
But no, as far as both facilities and CTE in the future and IT.
That's all built
that.
on there.
Yeah.
So put that all together and work together and come up with what a cost projection looks like. And then we can have the discussion in a special meeting with the trustees. And I'm there. And I know that well, Antonio, I look at it this way. We are going, if we don't do this, we're going to put ourselves in a disadvantage for competing with Delta, Merced, East Bay, community college districts. I mean, people will still come, but if they want some targeted, special, up to date,
I agree.
and if Chancellor Tran's ideas of focusing on partnering with, you know, technology corporations and other things. I mean, Columbia wants to be sort of the hub for, forest fire education and forestry education throughout the whole state of California. Well, there's no way you can achieve that goal if you don't do some sort of a bond.
I agree. I mean, like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I just need to see it and see that it's done correctly.
And I think for all the years of experience on measuring what I heard, I think the commitment from our team for the trustee is we will be thoughtful, we be responsible, because the decision you make for today is gonna affect the future of our student, our kids, our grandkids. And I think somehow folks always tend to feel like, oh, the decision I make is today. It's not really. It's the role, that's the fiduciary duty of the trustee to ensure that the future of the district is in a great position. So that, don't worry about it. We'll finish up on the facility master plan. We'll get together and our team will put together to have a special session. So we'll work on that, okay?
Wonderful. Now that we beat that.
Yeah, so now we know, we're gonna go out for ponds.
So if there's nothing else, the next meeting of the finance committee will be Monday, November 3rd at 1 p.m. And I appreciate everybody's, well, we had something special, you know, we're all a family and we need to take care of ourselves.
Got it.
We changed it, but we will be back at 1 p.m. on November 3rd. Thank you all.
All right.